Hello and welcome. My name is Faye. I'm from Your Heart's Path. I am a clairvoyant and a channel. I teach intuitive living and spiritual gift development. And this is my YouTube channel where we do a monthly collective energy reading. And as of yesterday, I'm going to start adding up some different content as I feel this platform is more appropriate for longer visits, to sit down, pop your feet up, grab a cuppa and tune into some of the topics that my guides, my higher self and I would really feel inspired to share, things that will offer value, insight, perhaps shift your perspective of your awareness, things that have really helped me in my own spiritual journey. Specifically today, we're going to talk about a topic that I'm going to call changing of the guards. So I had an experience on the weekend where two of my really close companions, my two guides that I've worked with for the last couple of years very diligently, they show up in all of the readings with me to support me in translating the messages that come through for you guys. Our contract's actually finished and I witnessed their departure. So we actually had like an official goodbye and they were just gone out of my field and out of my space. So this was in the depth of meditation. And in that, I was present to the arrival of my two new guides that are here that I've only been working with for the last couple of days. Yesterday was the first session that we did together, yesterday or the day before. So we've been conversing and getting to know each other as it's a whole new frequency and a whole new flavor. There's different contracts, there's different experiences with these guides. They're here to help me with the next chapter of my life. So spirit guides are one of those things that can be hard to grasp if you're new to this spiritual journey. If you've been on it for a while, you're probably more comfortable with the idea of having beings that are not in physical form that are here to support us. So spirit guides are like our family members. They're like a tribe. They really come here to support you, to guide you, to help create with you. They offer insight. They are like your friends, your family. They're really eager to help. We do know that with spirit guides that they can only ask if we do ask for support. And so sometimes when I'm tuning into people, you know, we're about to deliver a reading, you actually see their spirit guides there, but they're just a little bit further back. It's sort of like they're not intervening yet. And people's lives can drastically change when you pass this insight or this reminder that we know inside of our soul that if we ask our guides for help and support daily, they can actually step in. So they have your free will and their permission. They're not manipulative in that way. They really want you to build and cultivate a relationship with them, and they're really willing and eager. I often see them like twiddling their thumbs. That's the metaphor that they use. Like, come on, ask me to help you, please. And the closer our relationship to our spirit guides, I feel like the more it kind of creates a sense of empowerment for me. I really don't feel alone in this journey. There were periods of my time where I definitely did. There was sort of a knowing that there were beings around, but I didn't really have or spend time cultivating this friendship and relationship. And like any friendship and relationship, we have conversation, we get to know each other's frequency, we build and cultivate trust, we get to know one another. And with this, we then kind of can see and feel and realize why the essence or this particular being has come through to support you in your journey. So the really beautiful thing is that some guides are really momentary. I often see this with like animal spirits. You know, they come for a period of time that can be a little bit shorter. So it's almost like a flavor. They come through almost seasonally. So you might work with a bear for 6 months. You might work with an owl for 3 months. And it seems to be a faster rollover of, I want to say, time spent. Not always, because there are animals that have been around in my own field that I feel very close to that are very much here and present, but they perhaps don't have such an influence in my day-to-day life at this present moment. Yet there are periods where I've worked with them very diligently and sort of haven't given much attention to my other guides whatsoever. So there are different flavors, different essences. Guides come from all different places across the universe. This is my understanding. They come from different galaxies, different paradigms, potentially even different universes. They can be collectives speaking through one channel. They can obviously be like masters, ascended masters, family members, past loved ones. And then we go into these other realms where you start to see different creatures that almost don't even look human. So we can go with like beings, like as an example, like fairies or mermaids or strange unhuman looking entities that have their own magic and wisdom to pass on to you. So they come often with a higher level of knowledge, a higher level of insight. They are further along in their journey than you are. So they act like a helping hand. they really come through to help us with our current contracts that we have. So in the departure of my two guides, there was a realization prior to that even happening that I was very much at an ending in my life, and I was walking in through a new door. There's been some really beautiful synchronicities with that, and the flavor had really changed. I wasn't really anticipating these guys leaving, as I've had many endings with them around, but they had finished their contracts with me, as they had taken me as far as they needed to take me, as that agree on a universal level, if you even want to look at it like that. And the two new energies that have come in feel completely different. So does the vibration in which I'm currently moving into. And so when we tune into other people's fields and we're doing a reading, I sort of shared with you that you can see those who are kind of communicating with their guides. They often stand a little bit closer to the body. You can see the frequency exchange, like I want to say is almost like a line of energy where you can see they're in communication. Very different to someone who's not fully aware that they are even there yet. But also you start to see the different fragrances and flavors. It's very suggestive of the lessons and the learnings that people are going through. And some of that being, direct conversation you can have with the guides, and you can ask them, what contracts are you here to support this beautiful person with? And they can share that sort of information. But they're like teachers. They're teachers, they're our friends, and they really are a huge support mechanism. So we spoke about contracts, and that might be something or a word that you've heard thrown around. It might be something you have a lot of deep wisdom or insight in already. My understanding of contracts is that they're almost like agreements that we create prior to even coming to Earth, whether that be choosing of your parents or the jobs that you're going to do in your life, or the experiences that you have, what we could label good and bad, and all of everything in between. These contracts are like our lessons and our experiences that support our soul's evolution. That eternal part in you. So they're almost like destiny experiences where we have opportunity for growth and expansion, the raising of our vibration, etc. Things that we've sort of spoken about before. So contracts are sort of those things that are like uniquely designed. They're very specific to you and your soul, depending on what part of your journey you're in. And they come through, it can be to have children, it can be for the ascension, it could be for a specific relationship, it could be for a specific expression. And all of these contracts take us through places where we have this opportunity for growth. So if you have a guide that is connected to a contract, then they could potentially stay here your entire life if that contract isn't quite finished in this lifetime. It could be quite a short-lived contract that you experience for 3 to 6 months, and you move through the lesson and the learning quite quickly, meaning that it's integrated into your body. It's now something that you have the wisdom that has evolved from that experience, and it's not something that you need to experience again necessarily for your evolution, as the experience is sort of integrated and you have an understanding. It can be karmic as well. So it's almost like a cleanup of the karmic contracts that we come here to have too. And so, yes, we could say they are sort of all karmic. Some of them necessary and some of them unnecessary. Some contracts can be released through different astrological alignments. Some of them can be collective and some of them planetary as well. So we are speaking more of on an individual level with the contracts and the relationship that they have with your guides. So say your contract was to work as an architect, but the architectural job was actually your mother's dream, and you as a child picked up on that essence from her to become an architect in your life, and you hadn't quite considered that maybe it wasn't your idea. You just picked up on this, and maybe that was energetically, maybe you just wanted to prove something to her, maybe that was about making her proud or happy. And so you go through this job and this career, and you're moving through university, and you're doing your lessons, and you're learning, and you're tired, and you're exhausted, and you manifest, let's just say, like chronic fatigue. And you kind of just treat this as it is and keep going. And perhaps you don't stop to listen to your body and ask, why is it that I manifest? Why is not necessarily why has chronic fatigue manifested in my body? And these questions aren't really asked until you sort of hit like a bit of a point where you have opportunity. And these are opportunities where we might stop with our guides and converse and say, like, what is it that's going on? Why is this manifesting in my life? What is it here to learn? How can I evolve through this? Is this something that needs clearing or healing? Am I on the right path? Blah, blah, blah. You see how that's sort of where I'm getting. And as that continues to evolve, you might then finish your degree and go out into the world as an architect, and you might land your job. And this might be the perfect job, but you arrive at your perfect job and you start to realize that you're really unhappy and you're really miserable. You start thinking about food and the fact that you've always wanted to be, you want to cook more, and you're spending all of your time outside of this role as an architect cooking beautiful food and for your friends and your family, and you're experiencing this joy and this love and this passion for creating beautiful meals for people with lovely produce and the visiting of the markets and all of these things. You can feel the flavor coming out of my voice even changing. So you have this realization, hold on a moment, this is what it really feels like to experience something that I love doing. And then you go to work again on the Monday and you're back in this architectural job, and even though you've made your mum really proud and you've landed the perfect job, there's something inside of you that makes that pain in your body, that chronic fatigue. You're exhausted and tired when you arrive there. So your body is communicating with you. And it may be that you live the rest of your life like that. You might take that feeling and that experience and live to make your mother proud, and live and adjust to the chronic fatigue that may evolve into something else, or eventually sort of dissipate because we layer on top of it and ignore that sensation and override the feelings or the language that the body is communicating. You might take that all the way till you retire. And then when you retire, you might start cooking food and doing the things that you love more regularly, or you might just be exhausted and need to sleep for the rest of eternity. The beauty about this is that we could look at that as a contract. And with awareness, you might have nipped that in the bud at year 1 in university without needing to live that through, by acknowledging, hold on a moment, I've had this conversation with my guides, and the guides are here to show us this stuff, right? They're ready to have those conversations, to bring your awareness and insight into these places where we have learning to do. Why do we, don't take me there yet, please. So if you would nip this in the butt in, say, like year 1, you're partway through your degree and you're like, I am so exhausted, I don't know what's going on, I'm going to listen to my body and tune in, I'm going to ask my guides what it is that I can do in this space. And you might ask for help and assistance, and the following day you might run into someone on the street that has told you that they've just overcome chronic fatigue because they finally moved away from England, where their body was cold and tired and depressed all the time, and they followed their intuitive knowing and the messages in the inside of their soul source, their guides, and they've arrived in somewhere that's really beautiful and sunny, and all of a sudden they just feel incredible, and this chronic fatigue has disappeared, and all of a sudden you feel inspired, and you start to think, okay, well, perhaps there's something underneath all of this for me. And this is the lesson and the learning, right? All of our experiences manifest with a lesson and learning and an opportunity for growth, to just put something to peace, to observe, to bring love and consciousness into all of our places and the ways that our body and our being communicate, including our guides. So you might have then, if you'd had this awareness of your guides, asked, like, could I please have some help here? Is this path aligned for me? Why is it that I've chosen architecture? Is this for me and my highest good, or is this for the highest good of somebody else outside of me? You might have had all of these realizations before year 1 university has already arisen. The guide that came through with this contract with you can support you through that process. At the moment that you leave university in that place and go and start your apprenticeship as a chef in an environment that works for you because you've followed your joy and your passion, you might arrive and start your apprenticeship and do the healing work to release the guilt or the shame or the regret or whatever it is that's coming up inside of your body, to nurture this fatigue, to allow for that to sort of dissipate from your body and being, and heal this element of you that guided your soul into an experience that you had free will as to how quickly or how consciously or how willingly you showed up to this experience and evolved beyond what previously your soul may have just settled with. So the timing of the arrival of our guides and the duration of their stay often depends on the length of our contracts. So you might see there at that point where you arrive at cooking school, or you're doing your apprenticeship as a chef, you're in that process, you've done your healing work, you kind of catch up with yourself and you're experiencing that love and that joy and that experience. It wouldn't be surprising to me if the guide that came through with that contract was to depart at that time, because the lesson has been learnt and it's integrated. It's integrated because you've taken the action. It's integrated because you've done the healing. The chronic fatigue is no longer in your body. You're in joy, you're in expansion, and there is something more to experience beyond that point. And so at that point, the guide may leave, and instead of leaving empty space, it's often that we have a new contract that comes in. So they are kind of continuous. Most of our experiences, from what I've seen personally, are contracted. And so a new contract comes in, and with that new contract, you can experience a new relationship with a different guide. You can see how that guide may have needed to stay around for the complete lifetime span of that person's existence. And you can also see how it could have been unnecessary even before signing up to university or before the chronic fatigue, or, it could have been, it's up to us, and that's our will and our, I guess when I say like our relationship or our depth of relationship to almost like the acceptability or the synchronicity of our lessons and our learnings, and that really experiencing that finishing of like a finale, like, wow, that's gone, it's done. Sometimes we think it is, but there are multiple layers of the onion as well. So you do see that with people that come for readings. They can have, the onion's not really, the last layer is the roots coming out of the ground, and some of these lessons and learning experiences we have multiple layers. I've got things that I've been working at for 15 years and I know I still haven't gotten to the inner layer. And so there are beings that are helping me with that aspect that are still here until that is closed. And that might not even be in this lifetime. So I was quite shocked and surprised that the two guys that had been here helping me with readings did depart, and the two that have come in again with a very different flavor. And so you can see how different personality types and personality from the soul, different personalities from the souls that come through to support you in your journey are going to help you with different things. And it might be unusual in that experience to, I want to say, like, the guide has wisdom in the areas of the life that you have challenges in, because they're already equipped to take you through. And so the new guys that have come into my own experience, and I know that I'm bouncing this back to my own personal journey, but I want you to feel my own flavor here and feel the resonance in your own journey and get curious about what flavors or beings are around you in direct reflection of some of the experiences and the learnings that you're having in your everyday life already. And so that could be health pieces. Different guides come through to help with health. They come through to help with the mental part, the emotional part, the physical part, the soul part, all of it, the creative aspect. They're all different parts of, I want to say they're different parts of you, almost an extension of you, but a more evolved version of, so that you have a way through and that you can do this work inwardly. And so the new guides that have come in, and I'll just share about one of them in particular, only because I haven't sat for hours on end with the other. The female guide that has come in, I've spent quite a bit of time with, and we've been conversing, and her flavor or her essence and energy is, I got to be really frank, it's beautiful, like absolutely beautiful, but I can feel my retraction from what it is that she's already here to teach me, because I'm like, oh, really? Is this like a vibe that we're moving into? And she's very much got this embodiment, like the archetype. She's extremely feminine, has this essence of queen. She's already told me that we are going to be learning and working with the archetype of the queen. That's something on a personal note that I've like pretty much rejected. I'm quite happy with my inner child and my magician, and I want to say like my inner priestess and all these other pieces that come through that have always got more learning to do, of course, but the expression of those feels much more natural. And Queen is very interrelated to leadership. And so there's almost like a stepping up into what it is I really want to contribute and share to the world, but with this essence that feels really unattached to the outcome, that has the collective's highest good at heart, that is in this position of leadership. She kept trying to give me a crown, and I was like, no, I don't want that on my head yet. And to get to that place, and this might take me a lifetime, it might be something, I don't intend for it to. I intend to work through this diligently with a humble heart, but I can already feel how my life has shifted since, I think it was Saturday, and I can't be 100% sure because we're in that zone, but time-wise it was about Saturday that my guides left, and she and one other came in. And I was like, oh, I could feel the intensity of this energy, the challenges that are already going to rise in this space for me, my fear of not being humble enough, my fear of my ego getting in the way, my fear of not wanting the responsibility, the fear of, the overwhelm of what it is I feel like she's going to share, or that almost like the crown energy for me. And when people say, like the queendom and be the queen of this kind of energy, to me still feels like I'm not mature enough. And so there's going to be a growth in this. And that might take me 6 months. It might take me 10 years. It's sort of, it felt really pivotal. And there's much more to her energy as well. She looks physically very different, the way that she appears to me. So the appearance can change with your guides. There can be they can sort of, if they are just that sort of pure energy, they can present themselves to you as they desire to present themselves to you. So the way she even looks is almost uncomfortable to me from a very human, judgmental, egotistical perspective. I would almost like to change some things, and there's a discomfort in, I want to say, the comfortability in her curvaceous and feminine embodiment that I obviously haven't integrated into my own reality yet. And it humbles me to have this experience and this connection with this beautiful being that is going to support me, but will also be able to support you through this experience. And I probably wouldn't have jumped on and filmed this reading a week ago because it just wouldn't have come into my awareness. There wouldn't have been a desire there. So these can be parts of new contracts and new experiences. When we're in flow, we're sort of following through and we're listening, and I'm responding, and I am acknowledging her, and I'm grateful for her support and even delivering some of these messages. She is very different to another guide who helps me with clairvoyance, someone who's been here a long time. I'm still working with clairvoyance. I still teach people clairvoyance. It's still a tool and I want to say like a gateway to seeing energy that I feel. I may be with her for the rest of my existence in this physical body, because there is always more for me to learn and expand in other ways to be able to teach and facilitate other people's evolution inside of their clairvoyance. So I don't really feel an ending with our experience unless we get to a point where she shared everything that she needs to share, and there's that learning is coming directly from my higher self. Perhaps then our contracts would finish and she would depart. Swinging this back around to you, it's different. Guides are different to... So you have your set of your family members, your guides. You can ask for their help and see what happens in your everyday life, whether you actually just feel a little bit more supported, whether you are experiencing something directly, like it might just be that you're feeling really lonely or isolated. Ask them to fill you up with a sense of support, to hug you, to hold you, to assist you with your day and feeling more whole and grounded or connected or whatever it is. They work on a very essence level. So it's... And they can also, I don't want to say interfere, but they can help orchestrate synchronicities and things in your life as well. You could say, please bring through a new opportunity for me. I'm really ready and willing. Keep me grounded and present enough so that I see this opportunity when it arises. The way we converse with them is going to be different depending on who they are and how they actually communicate. And they don't all talk with words either. There's different ways in which we can communicate with guides depending on where they come from. Some just speak directly with downloads, pictures, images. Same thing, colors, frequencies, sounds, symbols, depending on where they come from. It depends on the way in which they communicate. So don't anticipate or expect that it all comes back audiently like a voice that's whispering in your ear. A lot of those voices actually come what sounds nuts, but inside of your head. But with your intention anyway, from your heart space, you can start asking for their support. Perhaps you ask them to visit you in dream space. Perhaps you could ask what it is, they're here to support you with, and how they could support you, what it is that you could ask for, the inspiration to ask beautiful questions, whatever it is, and be playful in that space. It's like meeting somebody new. When you go to a market stall and you say, hi, how you going? Blah, blah, blah. They know you very well already anyway, but it's really nice to just kind of meet them halfway. So our guides that we have, like our set of family members that can come and go, they may stay here for the duration of this lifetime. All sort of different fragrances and frequencies. We've sort of discussed that. And then we have other beings that we would invoke. So it may be that we invoke a spirit or a deity that is familiar to us because we've previously worked with them. So I worked with the owl for years. When my clairvoyance was opening, I was very afraid of what it is I'm seeing. So the essence of the owl, the spirit of the owl, I would call it in and sit with it in meditation. It was physically visiting me in my reality as a reminder. But I felt very connected to this one particular beautiful owl. It used to fly above me when I was walking, almost as an element of protection. It was like to overlook and to oversee and to make sure that, I just felt supported. I felt safer with this owl around. And there was a period there I don't remember it directly leaving, because it kind of went from being in my awareness every day to not really being there anymore. But sometimes I see owls in other people's fields and I'm aware that there's a clairvoyant essence there, and it can also be that they have a guide as an owl. And that is separate to invoking the spirit of the owl. So we can directly invoke the spirit of a particular being or an essence or an ascended master or a deity or a being that is sort of multidimensional, that's here assisting the collective of humanity. And so that might be like your ascended masters and your archangels, like calling in Archangel Michael or someone, which I do for protection very regularly. We have a nice relationship, but I wouldn't name him or call him one of my guides. I would say that he is somebody that I work with, and it's very intentional in invoking him and asking him for specific things and expressing my gratitude back in return. Doesn't necessarily feel like my personal guide. This is where things start to get different, and I don't suggest you go invoking deities, spirits, beings, or energies until you have the discernment of knowing internally what is a source of information that is here for your highest good. So spirits can dress up as spirits. You know, we spoke previously before about how energies can like morph themselves into other things. So you can have something that dresses up like Jesus and says, I'm your guide, I'm Jesus. And then underneath all of that, it could be something completely different, because they can morph. It's almost, you know, they can present themselves in different ways, as do your beautiful guides. They might just show up in a different outfit on a different day as a different expression, more in vibrational match to you, right? And not. Sorry, my slippers just fell off. So when invoking spirits, beings, we just need to make sure that I don't suggest doing that unless you have the confidence and the discernment to just check the source of that information. I did put a video up of that previously, different sort of topics, but the source of the information is really important, that we have that clarity and we have that knowing internally of like truth. So we would ask the question, are you of the light? And we ask that 3 times and we get 3 confirmations, and then we allow the communication with that spirit. Because otherwise we're giving permission to an energy or an entity to come into our lives and can interfere in a way that's not necessarily for your highest good. We don't need to go into that today. It's not about fear factor and all of the rest of it, but it's definitely a process where I would suggest getting to know your own team and your own guides before potentially invoking other beings. And you can still work with the animal spirits, and you can still work with the honoring of placing a beautiful picture of Ganesh or something on your altar and asking for blessings and things in that way. But when it comes to actually invoking an energy into your space for direct translation, or to manipulate your energy, or to work on you, etc., we really just want to know that we're working with a resonance that is of the light. And I do feel really passionate about that. People will have different opinions and different expressions around that, and it's okay. Trust your own truth and calling in that arena. But your guides are in your space and in your field already. It's just that the communication only happens when we give them will to. Anything else that we sort of need to cover? I wrote some little notes for you guys. So your guides will, if we're not regularly communicating with them, will actually notify you that they're there. Spirits speak in like symbols, and they pass on almost like my guides now. We have like a code. So I see visually their like geometric code, which is new. I would never share that with anybody else. It's like our code of communication. They send it through like an energetic symbol, and it might just happen like when I'm walking through my day or going to the supermarket. I might become aware of them, or I will see it inside of my third eye, and I'm like, oh, so I just bridged the gap to listen in that space. And, you know, is there anything I need to be aware of? And there's a little bit of conversation. They're just notifying me. It might just be like, pop your shield of protection up, please. Or, I don't know, like, don't forget your blueberries, or like literally. And so it's beautiful in that space that the communication or the relationship that we have is very much based on the amount of energy we put into our relationship with them. Don't get overwhelmed by like, oh my goodness, I've got 10 guides and I don't know any of them. Start with one. Just set that intention to communicate with your guide, and to ask that the one that is, most, I want to say valuable, most palpable in your life at the moment, that's helping you with your current contracts, could you please make yourself known to me? And they will suggest, like, you will see the synchronicity when you have this meeting, and say like your representation of your guide was like a red rose. You might have realized that for, the entirety of your life, you've been obsessed with red roses, and they always appear to you. And when you're in meditation, they always come to you. And when you smell them, you feel calm and relaxed and supported and loving. And then you meet your guide, and you feel their essence and their fragrance, and energetically, they're very representative of the rose. And you're like, oh, whoa, that's the connection. You've been here my whole life. So even though it's unknowingly before we have that kind of conscious connection, you can see where they've already been inside of your life and here, and trying to get your attention and your awareness. So I just start with one, make a best friend, spend time in meditation with them. I think that's where we bring most of our energy and presence. You know, we set our body up in calmness, and we move beyond the fear, so we can hear the intuition really cleanly, and we're intending from our heart space, not just from our head or expecting things to happen. We really want to put time and energy and effort into this. And so I guess overall, I don't feel like I'm alone in this experience where we've just had a bit of changing of the guards, as we're going to call it. My 2 guys leaving and 2 new arriving. We are at a really pivotal point we are in this void space currently in between the 2 eclipses, and there's a huge timeline shift happening collectively for the planet. So I feel that means we get different support galactically or universally that comes through to support us in the next evolution. We can have beings that don't resonate, they're too dense to be here now, leaving the planet. There can be all sorts of contracts finishing right now. So contracts for jobs you don't want to be in anymore because you've had your realization, health things coming to a close. The real palpable physical experiences in your life that have come to an ending can be associated with guides, as we spoke about previously. So if this is the case, you might be having a similar experience where you feel the arrival of a new energy and going through a new gate or a new doorway or a new expression of yourself in this life, and moving through your contracts may mean that you too have an experience where you start to feel a different flavor working through you. And asking your guides for support at this time will really help you get your feet on the ground and kind of, you know, go for it with, you know, feet on the ground and your heart open wide. And it's just a really nice line of curiosity, and I thought it was just really interesting, and I'll be curious to see how that sort of manifests for all of you. And if you've had a similar experience, I'd love to hear from that. If you have questions about your guides, please put them below. I'm more than happy to answer those. Always use your own discernment. What I share with you is just my own expression, my own truth, my own direct experience. It doesn't mean that it's always going to resonate with you, and I'm totally okay with that. Anything else that we want to pass on in this space? I don't know that we touched on completely. They're just bringing that little bit back for me. So we can work with these elements in the physical world as well. So like when we talked about invoking different beings and energies, it's unnecessary to completely do that all the time. The animals are a really beautiful essence of that. Like I look at like my partner, and the ducks are around him all the time. So he might not need to go into meditation and invoke the essence of the duck because it's actually already shown up in his physical life. If you were to tune into his field, maybe there are ducks all around him. I haven't. But it's almost like the essence of the medicine is there in his physical reality as well. So if we're present to our physical reality, these things actually do show up as far as deities and beings and essences. We feel inspired to work with a particular flavor. Perhaps we're having a big time with our, you know, ego, and we know that Kali's really good at cutting the head of the ego off and helping us surrender. And so it might be that you get to a position where you're confident enough to know that energy that is of the light, and you invoke that with a very specific intention and surrender to the support that comes with that. But not always necessary in the physical world. And that's why I really love the plants, the herbs, as in like the rosemaries and the parsleys and the flowers, and there can be beings connected to those plants as well. But whatever it is that you feel inspired by, it might just be that you love to collect shells when you go to the beach and really feel the essence of all of these pieces that land in our life. We have guides and information and insight and synchronicity that's everywhere. We're just going to be present in order to experience it. Every morning I wake up and have my coffee on the porch, and there's this beautiful bird. He's a mimicking bird, right? And he knows all the sounds of the birds in our neighborhood and beyond. And I just sit there in awe and watch him use his voice. And I honestly feel like, and I'm only just realizing this now, it's like this permission to utilize all these different fragrances of us to share. It's so beautiful and he gets so into it, you know, his whole body's kind of clucking and he moves in different ways to express the different sounds, and it's bliss. He's there at the same time every day, and that I don't need to invoke him in my meditation to experience that medicine. Perhaps I will be curious about it now because of what I can feel it doing to my throat even as I'm talking to him in a really beautiful way. But there's medicine already in that experience. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I feel like this changing of the guards is not only relevant for myself, but also potentially relevant for you. But you will feel it. You will actually feel it. We know that feeling of like an ending. It feels a bit like a death. It feels a bit like a silence. It feels a bit like a closing. And with that, a beginning begins quite quickly when we allow that nurturing time in between, just that sort of integration space. But they often wait until that very last thread, and then it's just done, and it's worth celebrating. Doesn't need a big hip hip hooray. It's just like, wow, you know, that period of my life is finished. Excuse me. I'm going to leave that there. Once again, my name is Faye. I am on Instagram as At Your Heart's Path. I teach intuitive living. I have an online program which you can take yourself through, which really gets you into the structure and the foundation of intuition and what that is. I really do believe that's something that we are born with. It's a natural skill set. It's not necessarily a spiritual gift. And that's something that sets you up to be able to work with that and really begin living intuitively. And I feel when we've kind of moved into that space and we're honoring our intuition, that's when our spiritual gifts begin to awaken. So I do one-on-one mentoring with spiritual gifts. I really love this area. It's really fun. We all have different fragrances and flavors of this. And as a channel, you know, the beauty of that is that we can see and feel where these parts are inside of your being and offer practices and embodiment pieces so as that you really deeply integrate it into your life in a way that works for you. So as that, you know, all these things, there's reason for all of that. And other than that, we offer, me, my team, my channel, I offer readings. So we do 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and at the moment that's it. Sometimes we do a group circle reading. There'll be a bit more of those things next year. And all of those is through my website. So you can see the details below in the blog. I'm not going to go into any more admin side of things, but if you're here and you've listened, I hope that this was nice. Just a nice little light, fluffy sharing today, but always nice to stimulate curiosity. I really love that side of this human experience, actually, and contemplation, and see what comes up for you whilst we're talking about all these things and what ends up happening as a synchronistic experience for you after. I'm always willing to to hear back. But anyway, sending you heaps and heaps of love. I hope you have a beautiful day. If I don't see you before, enjoy the eclipse, and we'll see you at the other side. Bye.